performance isn't something that happens by chance. It's not opinion. Performance is surgical and performance is a system. And so if we look at the highest performing teams on the planet, from sports to symphonies to special operations teams, the environment engineers performance. It has to become a system. Otherwise, it just becomes chance.
Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Ashley, and today I'm joined by Dan Kasper. Dan's journey has taken him from special operations in the Navy to leadership roles in Silicon Valley to now founding Piloteer, an AI platform focused on human behavior, delivering real time performance intelligence that builds stronger leaders and teams. And in this conversation, we're going to be talking about all things high performance, team culture, self awareness, and why we can all benefit from coaches. So, with that, Dan, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for being here.
Ashley, I'm stoked to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, you are obsessed with high performing teams. And on this podcast, we talk a lot about high performance in the context of sport and personal endurance and just continuing to keep going and keep pushing through. But you've lived this in a completely different arena, very extreme spaces within your military career in that. So my first question is, where does this obsession come from?
Yeah, you nailed it. So it actually stems from my time in the Navy. So I was an explosive guy with the SEAL teams for 7 years. And when you're on those types of teams, it becomes this everlasting quest. You know, I've been on some of the best teams. I've been on some of the worst teams. I built teams in 33 countries, and through that, you learn kind of what to do, what not to do. It's just every experience becomes another kind of tool in your tool belt. And you've been on this, with your sports teams too. And a lot of people, once you're on that level of team, there's something about it where you just need to be on more of them. From how the team works to what you accomplish, to the impact you can have, to how you support each other. And that quest, I think, is underutilized or underfelt in today's world. Like, very few people get that experience, but once you get it, you just can't shake it. And that's been my quest. Once I've got that flavor, I need to keep on pushing forward and help other people try to find that too.
I love it. And I think too, you appreciate the good teams all the more. You know what that feels like whenever you can experience both. And obviously, you've had, extensive experience in different teams in that way. I came across something that you've said in an interview. You talked about a defining moment during an open water swim where a teammate had helped propel you forward. Can you take us there and share what that moment symbolized for you and just how that maybe even further emphasize what it means to be part of a team and having someone there who has your back?
Yeah, I remember that moment exactly. It still resonates with me. And I think this is a theme that a lot of the training that I went to really is meant to drown out. Like, the training in special operations specifically isn't just happenstance. Like, it's engineered a very specific way, and it breaks everyone, but the point of this piece is, like, this system doesn't really care how good a performer you are in one lens, you're going to suck in another lens. And so the faster you can realize that you are not going to be the best at everything, and every person has their strength, and even more so that you rely on other people's strengths to help you in that area, the faster you have that realization, the faster the team can come together. So that, for me, was the first experience where I wouldn't have passed that event without this person's help. And the thing is, that was early on in the training, and what we saw from even like the training cadre is the more that we would come together to support each other and help each other, the more relaxed the cadre got. And so this is a training system that is always in your face, always in you, engineered stress. But as soon as they started to see you guys come to each other and help each other out, they took a step back. And so it was an interesting moment in time and realization that doesn't matter how great you are, you're always going to have weaknesses. And the more that you can come together to support each other during that, that's the level of the team, essentially.
I love that. And I think too, like just recognizing we all have unique strengths as well that we can really lean on. And sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves, like I need to do everything, but actually we can't do everything so well. So, whenever we can recognize that in one another, it's like the strength of the team is so much stronger.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's one of those things too. Like, if we look at like the science of the highest performing teams, the elite team science, and it's not everyone is the exact same and everyone has the same strengths. Like, you would not be an elite team if that's the case. If you were all copy and pasted the same individual, that's not what you have. Like, you have a foundation of which you know how to operate. You have to have a certain level kind of talent across the board. But yeah, then you have specialties. And with the special operations teams, there may be a explosive guy, there's a medical guy, and everyone, yes, has the foundational training, but they have their specialty. And in that moment where they need them, the team flexes on that, and it's always changing. And to your point, even when we think about how we build teams in the corporate world or the startup world, for example, a lot of times we always seek this. Oh, we need this sales type of persona. We need to copy paste. Like, okay, this person is my best performer. We need more of them. Do you? Or do we need, yes, some foundational level of skills, but how can we make sure that we're adding on the right perspectives, backgrounds, understanding, mindsets that actually add something to the table and aren't just copy paste of what we currently have?
Yeah, it's so good. To go down a bit into your, your journey in this way, all the experience that you had within special ops, you go from one of the most high stakes team environments that exists to then transitioning into tech industry, working with major companies like Airbnb and Wishlist. And so what is the common thread when it comes to high performance and adaptability and resilience and all of these kind of traits that maybe you could take from your experience in the military and kind of translate it over?
Yeah, honestly, I think and this is why I found somewhat of a home within the early stage companies, because honestly, the world of special operations and startups are strikingly similar. Like, you're doing things that haven't been done before. You're working in small teams. It's global. It's high stakes, high pressure. Things change all the time. You have to adapt. So that environment almost feels like home to me in terms of what it is. So that transition part, once I found that area really resonated with me, it was more personally that was the challenge for me and kind of transitioning out. I also like to say, in terms of leading, what that means in high performing teams, there's certain things, and I have the data set to support this with Piloteer. We looked at 8 million different leadership interactions with some of the highest performing leaders on the planet. There's a pattern. There's a pattern here of what the best leaders on the planet do. And even looking at different verticals, industries, sizes, locations, like there's certain behaviors, like you mentioned, that we know, like, hey, if you do this, the chances of you being a high performing leader are much higher, or even having a high performing team are much higher. Things like alignment, super important. Trust, super important. You talked about one, too, resilience, actually more important than most
Mm.
people think. Self awareness, we talked about emotional intelligence. So these things that we know, regardless of where you are in the world, there's certain things that humans need to operate at their full potential. And, we've been wired to build tribes and communities for thousands and thousands of years, from anthropology, sociology, neuroscience. There's these pieces that we're wired to do. And so I don't care the coolest technology out there. We need to support these things as humans. Now, how we get that support, it can be through a technology lens, which is where I'm super passionate about. But there are things that we know from a science perspective. If you do this, if you embody this, not just superficially or because you read it in a book and you say the word, but if you actually do what it means in the behaviors, like, your team will improve and the results will speak for themselves.
I love some of the examples or the traits that you shared there, and one that stands out to me is trust, and I know that we can just kind of throw that word out there, but how important is trust, and maybe even more so than the actual outputs of something, right? When you think about high performance, oftentimes we're talking about, like, hitting goals and winning and all these things in high performance, but if there's somebody that I can really trust, I'm gonna go with that person more so than, like, maybe somebody over here that is, like, more skilled, but I don't have the trust there. Trust is everything, right?
It is everything, and it's one of the top 2, it's in the top 2 behaviors that you need in any it's one of the most foundational if we look, because there are echelons, like, trust comes before different even elements of before you can have self-awareness, and you need to have trust. So foundational. Simon Sinek does a really good one on this. If you remember back in the days, one of his first videos, he talks about the SEAL teams, and he had on one element, on one axis, I think it was the y-axis, whatever, it was like trust, and the other one was performance, and how the SEAL teams specifically, they're okay with taking less performance as long as we can trust people, because it is so foundational. And you need to know that, if you say you're going to follow through, that you can execute, you can independently think. So without trust, everything crumbles. I would say it's one of the most foundational pieces that if you don't have it, I don't care how many billions of dollars you've raised. I don't care the best product in the world, your team will crumble and your business will fall. It's like that critical. And now, how we measure it, how we understand it. It's, again, how do we operationalize trust? All those pieces are critical, but to your point, it is absolutely foundational.
Yeah, and I think too, it's so interesting when you look at leaders across all different spaces and industries and all of the things, right? Some of these threads that exist in all those ways, no matter, if you are leading teams over here or over here,
Yep.
that could be totally opposite, right? What would you say is maybe like the biggest lie or misconception that we may tell ourselves about what it means to be a good leader? Where are those gaps then?
Yeah, the biggest gap is, let's take the traditional hierarchy. It's like this triangle type of a piece where the leader's at the top and they're like on this pedestal. I think that's absolutely garbage. And I think if you as a leader even think that mentally that you're in this spot and it's your duty, it is you're playing the rank game or you're playing the I'm the CEO, you fail, absolutely fail. F on the entire exercise. You're going nowhere like that. And so me, the leadership is it's an honor and that triangle of where they flip it upside down. Like your duty as a leader is to support your team doing the best work of their life. Your goal is to create alignment, give them resources, make sure that who's on the team is right, they're operating, and then turn people loose. If you have the right team, give them the we said in the Navy the swim lane to make the decision. So I think that's the biggest misconception is people still today think that like, oh, I got promoted, that they work for me. It's it it's inflated. You will not accomplish the results unless you truly have what's the best interest of your team and your mind and your people, at the top of your mind.
Yeah. I mean, something that I've heard before that has stuck with me is that you can lead wherever you are, right? You can lead. It doesn't take a title or a certain, description to quote unquote all of a sudden make you a leader, right? You can lead wherever it is that you're at. And I think that's super powerful. And I've experienced that in my peers and colleagues in those ways to see somebody showing up and to see some of these traits that they carry and that integrity and how it is that they're speaking to one another, or not even speaking to one another, but about somebody when they're not in the room or doing the work and getting there. Like those things to me that I can observe in other people, I'm like, yeah, I want to be like that,
Yeah.
and that doesn't
Yeah.
require a certain title.
Yeah, leadership is not a title. I'll tell you that right now. At any level it is, if you ever have to flex on your title, that's not it. You can have the lowest person on the totem pole. The intern could be the best leader, and everyone respects that person and goes to that person. You're so right. It's like it is that mentality, and that's what I encourage people to do too. Is like this. It's such an art, but also a science, and it's this quest. And at the end of the day, there's certain fundamental human things. There's also some scientific like team things that we want to do to make sure like what does team performance looks like? How do we make sure we're not going off track? But at the end of the day, it doesn't. I don't care what rank you are or what your role is. It's you can still step up at every level.
Yeah, I love that, and I think too how often we can get caught up in like in a title or in a label, and that can actually be a limitation to us in our own growth as well. But it's like if we can strip that away and realize that like, hey, you can actually, be so much more in that and exemplify leadership there, I think you can just accelerate your own growth tenfold. So I want to transition a bit into the work that you're doing with Piloteer and everything because I had the opportunity to see it in action. But before we go there, sometimes we may think that we're more self-aware than we are, or we think we know how it is that we show up in that. But even the greatest athletes or the greatest leaders in the world, they still need a coach.
Mhm.
So, why is that? And why is that self reflection and me are so important for your own, development and growth?
Yes, I love that. So let's look at some philosophy. So go back to Greek philosophy, get a little meta here for a second. But on the Temple of Delphi, there's a quote. It's still up there, and it says, "Know thyself." So if we look at anywhere from human sciences to philosophy, the first step in any lasting change is awareness, is knowing yourself. What are your limitations? So you can't change anything unless you're aware. So that awareness point, I don't care if you're brand new at something, you've never done something or you're a professional athlete operating at the top echelons, feedback is foundationally probably one of the most critical elements. That's why pro sports team take the time to watch the game tape. That's why they're getting F1 gets 300 data points per second when they're driving their car. If we look at elite team sciences, and there's coaching. Absolutely, there's coaching. There's practice, but there's also real time measurement in the moment too, because performance isn't something that happens by chance. It's not opinion. Performance is surgical and performance is a system. And so if we look at the highest performing teams on the planet, from sports to symphonies to special operations teams, the environment engineers performance. And it has to become a system. Otherwise, it just becomes chance. And so that is the quest that I am really keen on. How do we leverage technology and how do we bring that into more environments? You mentioned earlier too, performance is such a topic. Google it, people throw it out. The companies, we need more performance. But then what do? Nothing. They just set the goals higher and say, good luck out there. That's not how we engineer performance. And so if we really want to create improvement, it starts with awareness and it starts with knowing what to do, trying little things and measuring that. These little micro feedback loops are the exact same things that pro tennis players do. They'll practice their shot over and over. They'll get the feedback, they'll watch the game tape, they'll see you, they'll try something new and they'll watch it improve. So there is a critical element, both from a philosophy angle and elite team sciences angle. Feedback is essential.
And in that real time feedback as well too. I mean, you mentioned, talking about pro sports teams, like you think on the sidelines of,
Mhm.
NFL games, right? Like immediately
Yeah.
after a play, you see the players with the tablets and they're rewatching the play. That's real time feedback that you're getting that you can then go out there and make an improvement and adjustment in the next play. And so something I love about Piloteer and when you were showing me the demo is it is that real time feedback, right? And oftentimes in our work environments that or wherever it may be, we may only receive feedback at a certain performance review or maybe even sometimes later. So, which is still valuable, but it's delayed. So, what is it about receiving that kind of feedback in real time that actually then can make a difference over time?
Yeah, so that's such a critical piece is like actually like feedback, getting it, yes, but also you don't just flick a switch and you're a top performer, you're top 1% overnight. You do these little things and you do them consistently, and that's how you become a top performer. Like Formula One, for example, they're optimizing for hundreds of seconds. So like, it's not something massive. These little things we do consistently over time that create lasting impacts. And so the same thing with feedback. If we're not aware of, hey, Dan, you're always scowling and your team thinks you're always mad. Or, hey, you're crossing your arms, but you're
Mm.
saying you're open to your idea. My team picks it up as no, you're not. So awareness is the first piece. Like, hey, I didn't realize I was doing this, but it has an implication and it's impacting your team. It's impacting your performance by these little things we do. Awareness is the first thing. Knowing what to do is the second. Okay, should I uncross my arms? What do I actually need to do? And what impact does that have? And so being able to measure that feedback loop, almost like a little Jiminy Cricket that's sitting on your shoulder, is something that I'm really keen on. Again, special operations teams, like we had drones over site when we were on target, and having that level of support was critical. We could see things we didn't know. We got intel of things that were now being across the planet. It helped us win in places that we would never have without it. And so, how can we bring some of these concepts again of elite teams into moments where it actually makes us more human? So we're using this cutting edge technology not to replace us, not to kick coaching to the curb. At the end of the day, it's how can we get it in more environments where work is actually happening? And then how can coaching also support from real-time data too? So that reflection, little feedback loops, that's how we get to be a top performer.
100%. So describe a bit what happens there. Like what is this sensing AI? And there's so much right around you think, okay, another AI platform, and then you think less human, or there's all these like connotations that we can make. And so describe a bit what is actually happening, with what it is that you're building where people are getting that real in time feedback. What does that look like and how does it work? And like you were saying, some of these nonverbals that we're doing even as I'm talking now, where I'm like, if this was running in the background, maybe it's going to give me some feedback on. And we talked about that podcasting, right? And I think that could be an area where so many people like myself can benefit from and just getting that feedback, when you're hosting in these spaces. So, anyways, that's a plug for podcast hosts. But yeah, so take us there. So, what is happening?
Yeah, what is happening? Pure magic. No, there's so much noise around AI. I mean, if we look at in the news today, there's a company that I won't name, but they're laying off 8,000 people, replacing with AI that's looking at keystrokes. Everything has AI thrown out there. There is a lot of fear based. So AI is exceptionally powerful technology. Like the way that it's evolving is changing how we will work forever, no doubt. With that said, I'm building technology using this type of piece because I'm obsessed with teams. And instead of saying this technology is going to replace humans, I'm using it the other way around. I'm flipping the model. I'm flipping the model from what, kind of the leadership thing on top to I'm doing the exact same thing here. And that's our quest, what we're doing at Piloteer. Our goal is to use the most cutting edge technology possible to build it, to test it, to iterate on it. It helps to actually augment us, to helps us be more human, that helps us to unlock what the next level of performance looks like with intentional technology that is all about us as humans and people. So we created a concept called sensing AI. All we're doing is training AI, and I say all we're doing, like I can get pretty nerdy about the data set that we've been building, but we're just training AI to understand human behavior like humans do. That's really it. So, but instead of any human, we take the best performers on the planet, the best leaders, the best sellers, the best client people that are interacting with clients. And what sensing AI does, look, it doesn't just look at transcript. like GPT does, we look at the same elements and sensing pieces that humans do. So anywhere from your audio being your tone, your inflection, your context, what you're saying, how you're saying, even body language,
Mm.
down to we look at 55 muscles in your face every 0.25 seconds. No joke. We have a patent on that too. But like all these pieces coming together, and like actually, like you just naturally pick up on this, right? Like this, if my brow goes up slightly, you take certain things. Sometimes we may not put a finger on it, but we may pick it up. That's what our AI does, all with the reflection of doing the same things that we were just talking about, giving you self awareness, giving you real time feedback of how stop, uncross your arms, and be more open when you're talking about innovation. So it's kind of like a little Jiminy Cricket on your shoulders that helps you perform. And then we unpack the tremendous amount of data we get in order to help your team.
I love it. And I think what's also very interesting too is that sometimes in our communication, right, we may be thinking that we're communicating something in a way that makes sense or it's coming off right because that's how we are, perceiving it. But also in communication, it's not always about how you're seeing it, but how is somebody else receiving it. And so whenever I am doing this, maybe it's signaling something to another person that then I should maybe adjust how it is that I am, communicating this, or, my body language is actually saying this. And while I may not think that, I may have a blind spot to it. And this is what, the power of this kind of technology, right, is helping you to see your own blind spots in a way where it's not always just about what it is you're putting out there, but how you maybe be perceived. And how that could also influence then, the outcome of a certain meeting that's important or a sales call or whatever it may be. Sometimes we think like, what, nothing's wrong with how I'm communicating. How don't you understand this? And it's like, it's not always about
So true.
me.
Yeah, it's so true. And like but it also differs with every person that you talk to. If you're talking to a team in Japan versus the US, the sales team versus engineering. So context is everything and is everything. And that's one of the cool things about this technology is that we can pick up on that. It's not one size fits all like tools have been in the past. Like there's not like you're interacting and this is what it's coming across. In fact, we had somebody write in just to our general like hello at Piloteer, client of ours. I'd never talked to them. This is yesterday, and they said, "I just wanted to say thank you because she had a lot of conflict with her colleagues, same kind of rank. I'm going to say rank, but like same kind of similar positions. And she didn't realize that she scowls a lot when she's on calls. And Piloteer said, which calling on her body language stops scowling. She's like, I don't think I'm scowling, but she's like, oh, is that why? She actually addressed two of her colleagues and she said, is this why? And they're like, yeah, we think you're always mad. And she's like, no, I'm not actually mad. So like interesting discovery to your same point that just happened yesterday is awareness is the first piece. That communication point, now that they know that, hey, that's just how I look, I'm concentrating.
Mhm.
But that conversation has had is now she's like literally for about a year, this has been going on. And now it's been resolved just with some awareness.
It's so interesting because you think about it being twofold in a way where it can help you improve like on an external call, right? Maybe with the client or on a sales call or something like that. And also within your own team dynamics and culture, because how often is there just a communication breakdown? Or like you're saying, okay, maybe you just no, I just do this. Like it's just my face. I just look like, it's I'm not trying to come off like this. But something like that maybe is like a tick that somebody is perceiving as you're just mad or why are you being dismissive of this? And it's like, I'm actually not. So to be able to have this and then come to the table and discuss some of these things, then that could even open up conversations with your team and a better, deeper understanding of one another. Because I believe in the different work environments that I've been in and where I've observed, breakdowns in communication in these ways, a lot of times it's just because we don't understand one another and how it is that we are, communicating or something in those ways. So there's so many possibilities of how you can really improve not just yourself, but team as well too, ultimately, right? For the greater goal of the team.
Exactly. Crazy thing is too, we're using a computer to help us do that, right? So it's almost like at first it seems like this oxymoron, like can a computer really help me be more human? That's our quest.
Mm.
That's our quest. Is like to help be because it's impossible for performance coach to be in all the rooms in all the times and see all the things where actually performance happens. Like, yes, the coaching is super important, but then you go back to your job and like, how can we get that continued support? And so that's exactly what we want to do. These aha moments of being more human, of understanding how you're coming across because of technology. That's what gets us excited.
Yeah, I mean, going back to this whole, like, fear around AI or this, like, counter, like, "I don't wanna use it because it's taking away." It's like, yeah, but what if you can reverse that narrative? It can actually help you lean in more to the strength and power of being human, and bring that, because that's to me, I'm like, I don't wanna lose our humanity and the importance of connection and all of that, because that's, like, everything, you know?
Yeah, it's kinda like this dichotomy, and it's a challenge, and I think but now is the time to be involved in it. That's why we're doing what we're doing too, because as you know, like there's so much fear mongering around it, and some of it, yeah, like any good tool, it can be used in one way or the other. Like we want to be in the force for good and really build trust and an under like an excitement around what can this technology do that actually is counterintuitive to what we may think by reading some of the headlines.
For sure. I think too, I wanna talk about this a little bit. I think this is interesting. I do think it takes a level of receptiveness, right?
It does.
To kind of be read in this way and given this kind of feedback because again, we have blind spots. We don't know. Anytime you get a little feedback that something could be improved, you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you're stubborn, if you're a bit stubborn, and I think that happens too, Dan, if you have this like high performance mindset in a way, it's like, yes, there's a level of being open to feedback and coaching, yes. And also, you think maybe sometimes you can just do it all and you don't. So yeah, talk to us a little bit about that and just that open posture that may be required to improve in different ways.
Yeah, it does take a mindset. Like, know thyself is super important, want to
Mm,
improve. Obviously, you can't improve somebody that doesn't want to improve themselves. That will always be the case.
yeah.
But it's also an interesting case for AI in this perspective too, because it's not your
Mm,
boss sitting in over your shoulders. The AI doesn't care if you're the CEO, doesn't care if you're the intern. Like we're going to tell you how like we see it. And so it's been offering some interesting cases to get feedback in a place that's been either very difficult, as in upper echelons of leadership, you may not be getting real feedback for you,
mm,
or from places that people may not be receptive to it because we're not blasting this to your boss and all the people. Like this is for you. This is the goal is to improve. And the feedback you're getting isn't just do this better. We're calling out things that, hey, do more of this. You're crushing it
yeah.
at this. And this is what's stepping apart. There's also just neither just good nor bad. There's just signals, right? There's just signals of what's
Mhm.
happening and be aware of this. And there is some course corrections too, but it's not just like Dan sucks. Dan, you stop. The goal is to like, again, similar to what a coach should do, like double click here. This is great. You should be aware of this. Let's think about changing this, and it's for you. So I think the storyline is super important here too, because the initial reaction is, oh, is this a computer just telling me how to do my job? Is this going to get me fired? And that makes sense, right? Like again, foundationally, psychologically, as a Hurricanese, I know that I'm safe before I start to use and inquire things too. So there's a lot, again, all human things, story is super important. The how matters, how the technology comes to life. But at the end of the day, we're doing what we're doing because we want you to get better.
And is that kind of to go back to the top of our conversation as well too, and opening and saying, talking about your obsession with high performance teams, right? Can you speak a little bit to what inspires you to, keep building this, to grow this, to keep going as well? It also comes with its own, unique challenges like anything, right? And so it does require, endurance, and it requires that something internally inside you that keeps you showing up and keeps you to keep going in those ways as well. So what is that for you?
Yeah, I'm super lucky because I am building right at the intersection of like what my passions are. So that just fuels me, right? And really my quest is because I've felt what that like looks like. And most people I know have never been on that level or felt that, right? Not that they can't be on those teams, but they've never been on that team where like you don't need to ask, you just know this group of people with you that will do anything for you. The results, the things that you can accomplish are like astronomical. Like I want more people to get that. And I think we as organizations within business are terrible, frankly, at building teams. We're not good. We may be good at idea. We may be a good technologist. We're not good at building teams. It happens over and over and over. I've seen some of the best companies on the planet not even get close to their potential because of it. I've also seen some of the scrappiest bootstraps do way better than anyone else because of it. So I don't think we are good at building teams. I think we talk a lot about it, but we don't have the micro behaviors and we don't have the systems in place to actually do what performance entails. And I want to change that.
I love it. Thank you so much, Dan, for being here, for sharing your insights and more on the work that you're doing with Piloteer. These conversations fuel me and inspire me, because of the opportunities and possibilities to get better and become better. And starting with that with awareness and reflection. And so yeah, I'm excited for what's to come and all of the ways that people will you know see their potential and watch their teams just grow and flourish. So thank you. And yeah, I'm excited to keep following along the journey.
Yeah, thanks. This has been super fun. Performance is an endurance thing. You don't just flick a switch. So this is the whole topic all along is like, how can we be long-term minded and not just make these short-term people? How do we think about performance long-term? How do we do the little things that's going to make us dramatically better at the end? So obviously with what you're doing, who you're chatting with, this has been super fun to be on. Thanks for letting me be part of it.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. Thanks so much.